So, I guess I gotta try to do my best to explain what's happening here. It's spring break in Central Arkansas, at least in Conway it is, and traditionally our church, or at least our youth group, has very low attendance during spring break, and so everyone literally just flees the city and goes to like Pensacola, Florida, for whatever reason, or like you just travel, you just go to different places. And so instead of me trying to force an event or do something like that, I decided to just cancel everything going on this week. And the church canceled anyways too. But so what I also decided to do is pack this week with things I want to do to help my youth ministry. So this week, the first 3 days, from Monday to Wednesday, I went to the Village Church in Dallas, Texas. And so if you've never heard of the Village Church, I'm going to link below a couple videos that are at videosforstudentministry.com that have to do with Pastor Matt Chandler and some of the cool things they've done that come out of that church. It's a really large church. I think it's like 14,000 people. And one thing they do that's really neat is they open their doors for pastors from every level in the church, from executive pastors, finance pastors, to lead pastors, to youth pastors, to children. I mean, every facet of the church pretty much. They open the doors and tell you everything, how they do it. I mean, one thing that I wish I could have gone to was the communications classroom, because like they have it's like Google. They have an amazing communications team, and they talk about how they make their graphic designs and their social media and their just, you know, their art is just a fascinating thing. But anyways, I spent the first 3 days of this week going to the Village Church for Village 101. And so what I want to do is I want to ask you some questions that kind of came to my mind that have to do with student ministry, so that way we can have some dialogue, some conversation. One thing before I go any further is one thing you guys have asked me, a ton of you guys have asked me on Twitter and on Instagram and some other places, is share my notes. And I wrote a ton of notes while I was there, and share your notes. What I'm going to say to that is I will share some of it. Some of that stuff is like licensed that I don't think I can share. Like I got so much free stuff on this trip. I got like 3 or 4 books that I'll like write out what they are later. Like a ton of like I got like their small group year-long Bible study in the book of Genesis, and like just so much stuff. Like I haven't even gone through it all, and like I have like 40 gigs. I don't know how big it is, but just tons of gigs of a Dropbox file of like stuff for church life. And so some of it has to do with youth ministry, some of it has to do with church. But anyways, I can't share that because that stuff is licensed. But if you go to Village 101 in October, they'll hook you up. They're like giving away books. They're just such nice giving people. But anyways, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna write 2 blog posts. One on my personal blog site, my personal website, frankgill.me, and I'm gonna talk about a couple of thoughts that I had from the Village 101 about church and church proper, like Big C Church, and how they run their church, the things I learned about membership, and just thoughts about that I thought were really, really good and encouraging. And then over on the Youth Min website, I'm going to write a blog post about youth ministry and what I learned from the Village Church Youth Ministry, and just meeting up. Listen, I met with a couple of the campus youth pastors, middle school pastor, high school pastor, some of the admins and like assistants. They are some of the chillest, coolest people I've ever met. Like, they're not pretentious. They don't think they know it all. They're not pretending they know it all. They're just saying, we're a church that's been gifted, that's been blessed to have a senior pastor that has a gifting that draws in thousands of people. And so we're just trying to be faithful to God and shepherd the students in a way that glorifies God. And they're just doing awesome stuff over there. So I'm going to talk about some of that stuff on the Youth Min site soon. So here's a couple thoughts that I had while I was there. I want to share with you guys. I would love for you guys to comment below in the different blog posts as well as maybe just in the Facebook group that we have. Just wanting to hear your thoughts and how you're doing this. So one thing I was really impressed with the Village Church is their intentionality to make sure that the students don't feel like they're this like special outside, you know, autonomous group of people that are not really part of the church. Like, they are very intentional to make sure that the students understand they are a part of the Village Church. Like, so much so that they allow their 16-year-old students, once they turn 16, to apply for membership, to go through their covenant membership process. I just love it. I think it's so interesting that they make sure that they don't feel like they're just part of a youth group and feel belong to a youth group, but they feel like they belong to a church and that they are viable members and partners and part of the actual body of the church. They're not just children of members of the church, but they are a part of the church. And so my question for you guys is, how do you foster that at your context? I'm gonna put this down. Hopefully maybe that'll kill some of the sun, maybe it won't. The relationship between your youth group and the church to make sure that the students feel like they are a part of the church proper. What are you doing specifically to do that? So write down your comments below. I know I'm not doing this perfectly, but that is a huge part of mine, that they understand that when they graduate from this high school, that they are already committed members to this church. Not that they are just like, oh, look at these cute kids that come here. This is not an extension of our children's ministry. This is young believers with souls that are functioning members of our church, that belong and have been bought by Christ, and they have the same value to the church as a 50-year-old man or a dad or whatever, right? How are you doing that? Let me know below. One thing that I'm going to talk about in pretty good length in the Youth Men blog post is the Village Church's model of youth ministry is to be incarnational, not attractional. And one thing that I've been trying to do in my youth ministry for a number of years now is to not be that. I don't want kids to come because, man, we have all this fun stuff or we do all these fun trips. I want it to be that it's so intentional that we are about Jesus and making his name known and giving out the gospel, that we will have fun stuff, but that's not why they're there. You know? So they're there to learn about Jesus, know about Jesus. And so how that, one of the, I don't want to say consequences, but one of the results of having that mentality at the Village Church that I thought was fascinating is they don't do any kind of advertising in the community. They don't like purposely try to like go to the high schools and try to recruit kids. Or their only way of growth in their church is either parents have kids that are teenagers and they join the youth group, or the teenagers of that church love the youth group so much that they bring their friends. And part of me has been wrestling like should I be doing lock-ins and big events to draw kids in and hopefully they'll stay, or should I just make it a mission and a vision that our kids are to be bringers and bring their friends? I'm going to talk more about that in the blog post because I have more thoughts about that. But what are your thoughts about that? What like the Dallas campus at the Village Church, they're more of a regional campus than a campus that sits amongst the community, and so they are doing some, I guess, attractional events, if you will, to draw kids in because of the way the context is located. But how do you view all that, incarnational versus attractional? And like I said, I'm not dissing attractional churches. I was bitter towards some attractional churches when I was younger, but I kind of feel like I've matured beyond that. But what do you think about that? Intentional in terms of it being incarnational and just having the kids bring kids. I think that's a really solid growth plan. Is when your kids have bought in, they're going to be the best recruiters than you going to the high school or you going wherever, unless you have a really strong personality. Anyways, I'm kind of talking about my blog post. Read a blog post later, but what are your thoughts about that? What are your thoughts about being very intentional and incarnational, where the students bring the students, or rather being attractional, just putting on big events, having concerts, doing crazy lock-ins, having great prizes, and that being the big draw? What are your thoughts about that? Let me know. All right, I'm going to talk about a very hot button issue, all right, I'm not trying to cause a fight, but this has been a conviction of mine and a discussion amongst our youth men kind of contributors, and you should probably expect that in the months to come we're going to have this discussion more in depth and maybe kind of dissect what this looks like. But one thing that the Village Church in their breakout they said is, I think like 6 years ago, 5 years ago, I forgot, maybe it's more or less than that, they were doing the student life curriculum. They were doing student life curriculum in their church, in their youth group, to teach their students. And they just found as a staff they're going to get off the curriculum and do their own stuff. And it was strictly because, nothing to diss people who use curriculum, nothing to diss student life, but it was literally one of those things where they just found themselves buying so much, spending so much money, thousands of dollars of curriculum, and at the end of the day, they were literally just kind of taking the skeleton of the lesson and the Bible verses and writing their own sermon. And they said, well, if we're doing this anyways, let's just write our own curriculum. And so they're completely off purchasing curriculum, and though it's more work, they write all their stuff. And so kind of a question that they said is, you know, they felt that in their church, it's been better because they've been able to contextualize better, they've been able to do exactly what they want to do, and I think what they've actually done more often than not is kind of go alongside what the senior pastor is preaching, not regurgitating the sermon to dumb it down to the youth level, but like kind of going around the same path. Like if Matt's going through James, the youth are going through James in a different way. And so my question to you is, what are your thoughts about this? Like, I know this sounds hypocritical because I write all my stuff, and I'm a big proponent of people writing their own messages. But at the same time, I sell a lot of my stuff in the youth ministry. You might be like, Frank, you're playing both sides here. Well, I'll be honest. The reason why I write a lot of this stuff is because I know there's dudes or chicks that are bivocational or volunteers. And there's churches that maybe are in between youth pastors. And so not everyone has the gifting to write curriculum. And I don't know, there's probably other variables in this that I'm not even thinking about. But there are people that need curriculum. I would dare to say probably there are more people in this country in youth groups that are small, that are bivocational, volunteer, that don't know how to write a sermon, that don't know how to exegete scripture, but want solid stuff. And so I'm giving it to them. I'm selling it very cheap. And the youth ministry store sells their curriculum very inexpensive. And there's other people who make curriculum that are great, they're inexpensive. And so my heart is, if you're that guy or that girl and you need this, buy it. You know, so if you're that church that doesn't have a youth pastor and you have parents teaching lessons, do this, because what you do is you're having this stuff that's very legit. I mean, not paying myself on the back, but I don't make crap, right? Very legit stuff, and it's good for the youth ministry. It's good for their walk. It's good for their growth, and it's good for the leader. You know, there's just a lot of benefits to that. But at the same time, if you are a full-time youth pastor and you're in the office for a week, the only argument I've heard is, you know, instead of writing, you know, I could be writing my own messages, but I'd rather spend time with kids. I spend plenty of time with kids, and I still write my own messages. That's a scheduling issue. If you are a full-time youth pastor, you get paid full-time, there should be enough time in your week to be able to write your own messages. Especially if you went to Bible college or seminary and you learn how to, I don't know. I'm not trying to start a fire debate, but my question is do you use curriculum or do you write your own stuff? And explain to me why. Why do you do it? What I love about the Village Church is that when they presented that, they said that they weren't being condescending, they weren't belittling people who use it, or, please know my heart, they're not belittling full-time dudes that use curriculum, because they were all full-time dudes that were using curriculum, but they were just, they found it in their own context to be beneficial and better, not only to their youth group, but to their soul. And that's one thing why I love writing my own stuff, is because to me, it's a part of my growth and sanctification, that not only am I having my own personal Bible study, but God has gifted me to look at the scripture, exegete it, break it down, and to teach it. It affects my soul in a way. And so please don't turn this into a fight. In fact, don't respond to someone else. Just tell me this: why are you using curriculum? Why don't you use curriculum? Why do you choose to write your own messages? Why don't you choose? however you want to answer that question, let me know in the comments below. I would love to hear your responses. And like I said, expect probably next several months that we're going to have this discussion in Youth Mint, because this is a big deal for us, because we write curriculum, but we also are big fans of teaching other youth pastors how to just be awesome and grow in their gifting, grow in their position, be awesome youth pastors. And so we might even, I'm pretty sure there's something in the works of giving out like a blog post of how to write a message from start to finish. My buddy Delmar Pete has already done that, and anyways, that's to come. Check that out. All right, here's a couple of random stuff real quick before I close this off. One, Whataburger. No offense, especially to my friends in Texas, but that place sucks. It's not good. It is. I'm just not impressed. And I know that's like a Texas staple, but it wasn't good. You know what is good? Jack in the Box. There's nothing in there because it's so good. Yeah, that place was great. I love it. I'm sorry, my kids in my youth group like love coming to like the border of Texas because they get Whataburger. I don't know. What's your favorite fast food joint in your city? What's your? I mean, don't just say Chick-fil-A, because obviously that's always number one. But what's your favorite fast food place? And it could be a non-chain. It could be like, we have this one fast food place that's only in our city and it's the best. If that's the case, if it's not a chain that we know, put a link below, so that way when we visit your city, when people visit your town, we can like check out that place. Because I love eating local. I love eating local. I hate going to another city and eating at Applebee's. It's like I can eat Applebee's at home. I want something that's unique. That's why I love like In-N-Out Burger when I go to Dallas. Like I love that stuff. So where is it at? Let me know. And what's the best thing to get there? Let me know that too. Also, Texas friends, I gotta know this. What's the best barbecue place? And I say this while at the same time at the Village 101 there was dudes from Kansas and North Carolina that were saying Texas barbecue isn't that good. And listen, I'm indifferent. I'm Switzerland in this. I like saucy food. I like dry rub. I just like meat, dude. I like bacon. I like ribs. I like beef. I like brisket. I had brisket for breakfast. I'm a Texan today. Anyways, what is the best barbecue place in the Metroplex? Let me know. All right, some quick things is in April I'm going to the Youth Pastor Summit that is going to be in Dallas somewhere. If you're going, let me know, because if you go, I'll probably hook you up with some free stuff. I don't know what the extent of that looks like, and I actually haven't gotten permission to do this. I'm gonna ask for forgiveness later. But if you're gonna go to the Youth Pastor Summit in Dallas in April, like the end of April, I think, come find me. Let's link up, let's hook up, and I will hook you up with maybe like a discount code or some like store credit, or maybe like a link to an item in the store so you get it for free. I don't know what I'm gonna do yet. I gotta talk to my bros at Youth Mint to figure out what they can hook me up with. But we will do something. So find me at the Youth Pastor Summit if you're there. And if you don't know what the Youth Pastor Summit is, I'll link it below. It's a little conference for youth pastors, and it's free. I think they have one in Houston and in Orlando, and I think in like somewhere in Canada too. But the one in Dallas is in the end of April. I'm gonna be there. Find me, I'll hook you up. All right? Follow me on Twitter for more information.